What's up, Whiskey fam? Tonight we're going to be talking about what whiskeys you're looking forward to the most here in 2024. So we're going to get some folks to join here in a bit. I don't have the usual suspects tonight. I have a friend who's got a birthday tonight, so he's hanging out with the wifey. And I got a friend who decided to play trivia instead of talk whiskey with you guys. So it is what it is. But yeah, hopefully we can get this ball rolling and talk about what you guys want to see coming this 2024. I'm really looking forward to this year. I know there's been a bit of a lull in whiskey sales for some reason. There's probably a lot of reasons to that, but yeah, once people start joining, I want to definitely dive into that. So tonight I decided to get into some Garrison Brothers. I just got this bottle. It came in to Total Wine, I think, last week, because there was only really one bottle left, and it is the Ladybird. Yeah, fresh release from Garrison Brothers, and definitely getting into that. And it looks like I got my friend Ed joining. Let's see. Let's get him added. Hey Ed, are you able to join? Cool, there he is. Still waiting for the technology to catch up. For some reason, I got him in here. Hey, there you are. What's up, man?
How are you?
Hey, good. Good to see you, Ed. How are you doing, man? It's been a while since we talked.
Yeah, when was the last one of these? A couple months ago.
Yeah, man. I feel like it's been a couple of months now.
Well, keeps it fresh.
Yeah, yeah, right. So I see a couple of people are joining. But good to have you, man. I'm definitely interested in hearing your thoughts on whiskeys that you're looking forward to the most this year, for sure.
Well, there's a lot coming up in the next week or two, so
Oh, okay. All right.
do you want to start talking about that already, or wait a
We
minute?
can. We certainly can, man. Just to bring you up to speed, I was chatting before you joined. I'm not sure if you're drinking anything, but I decided to get into this newly released Garrison Brothers Ladybird. Um, I saw it last week at Total Wine. There was like only one bottle, so I'm assuming it's going to be like a pretty rare release to, you know, out here in the States. I don't know if they're international yet, but I had a chance to try last year's edition. A friend of mine had the bottle. He is really into Garrison Brothers, and he pretty much probably has all their stuff. And he shared it with me, and I thought, dang, that's pretty phenomenal. But by the time he shared it with me, it was gone. So anyway,
The Ladybird's it's a honey one?
yeah, yeah, man. So this is what they do, right? And I've heard about their process, but it's Texas straight bourbon whiskey infused with honey and finished in a cognac cask, and it's bottled at 57% ABV or 114 proof. And it looks like Brian B1 says, "Drink hazmat." I certainly will. I certainly will. And it looks like you got a couple of people join that follow you, so that's awesome.
Well, Brian B1, that's Barry from RD1, so we should be drinking RD1, but sorry, Barry, I don't have that right now. So I actually have an old Carter. This is the Louisiana Batch 3 that I picked up when I was at New Orleans Bourbon Festival a year ago. So
Nice.
it's a good MGP double oaked, good toasted.
Nice. Okay, so double oaked. I think for the most part, double oaked means it starts out as bourbon, right? Charred barrel, and then they they age it in a secondary barrel that's been toasted, right? For those that may
Yeah,
not know.
well, it depends what you want to do. I mean, honestly, I don't know the exact specifics of what they do with it, but it's definitely a
Sure.
toasted. I mean, it's probably still got a char to it to keep it, because if you don't do that, then it's not still bourbon.
Yeah,
But
right.
yeah, but it's
Well,
it.
at least it starts out as bourbon, right? You can always say it's bourbon finished or bourbon secondary aged or something to that effect.
Yeah,
I'm sure the whiskey nerds will correct us, right?
well, but it winds up in that bourbon specialty category
Yeah,
if you, whereas if you keep the barrel with the char and the toast, well, the char and it's new, then you can still keep calling it bourbon, which is good. So, but
nice.
anyway, it's really good, and they don't go, they actually don't advertise the fact that they put it in a second barrel, but they virtually, I think, put virtually all their stuff in second barrels.
Gotcha. And I'm going to acknowledge the folks that are in here. So Blue Grass Hole says, "What's up? What's up to you?" I don't know if we've crossed paths, so cheers to you. And then D Hawk 8217 I mentioned or added staves or chips. Yep. And actually that's where I'm gonna add a little bit of info. So when they say infused with honey, typically if you add, right, so it's a straight bourbon whiskey. So let's start with that. If you add any sort of flavoring, if you were to directly add honey to the barrel, technically that would no longer constitute a straight bourbon, right? So the way around that is um, they take these staves, these wood cubes, if you will, like if you can imagine, it's like they're about that big. They're not like grandiose or really big, but they take a group of like wood cubes, or at least this is how it was described to me, from a barrel that has been used to age honey, right? And essentially they take that and steep the barrel itself with these cubes of wood that have been used to age honey. And so that's kind of their way around not really directly adding honey to the bourbon, but aging it or quote unquote infusing it. So that's what I've been educated on them doing. And I'm gonna do a quick shout out. Somebody did decide to follow me, so thank you for that. Appreciate you. Um, so you start first, man. What are you looking forward to
Well, I mean, there's a
this year?
lot going on here. So, next week is the National Bourbon Week, which pretty much it's probably should be called Bardstown Bourbon Week, because I mean it got sort of started by the Bardstown group, and it's focusing on the Bardstown things. But that's the whole release of the Bardstown collection, which is seven bourbons. I think they're all bourbons actually. That come from seven of the distilleries that are part of that Bardstown area. So there's going to be some really interesting things that come out there. That's the only one that's been making all the press, and now I'm going to be one of the people talking about it, but it's sort of
Get
it's a
ahead of
little
it,
annoying
man.
it's the
Get
only one
ahead
that
of
got
it.
out there. But well, the Beam, because it's going to be the oldest thing that they've ever released. That's age stated. It's going to be a 20-year-old, and so they've gone all out. I think last year's was pretty amazing too. I think it was the I can't remember but it
Was
was
it?
like three of the um, sort of landmark barrels for them, like the 11th million, 12 or whatever, some crazy numbers,
Yeah.
each one of the individual ones mixed together. But this one's going to be a 20-year, so it's going to be pretty amazing. And
So,
then,
so are you talking about? Let me pause you there. So, are you talking about Knob Creek putting out the 18-year, and now they're going to put out a 20-year? Or is this a different Jim Beam
no, it's
like product?
completely different. It's just for this Bardstown collection. So
Okay.
each release will only be about 500 bottles or so. And so
Okay.
they're really only going to be sold in Bardstown during this happening. So there's like a party on Tuesday. I can plug the party. There are a few tickets left for it. I think if anybody wants to go, they can still pick probably maybe one or two of those up, where you actually get to taste all of them. It's a good party. Um,
Okay.
and there's that. And then throughout the week, each one of the distilleries will have time slots where they actually do the release of their individual bottles. So people can line up there and pick them up. So it's, Bardstown Bourbon Company, Lux Row, Log Still, Preservation, uh, Limestone. Who am I leaving out? Heaven Hills, not gonna leave it. And is that seven? And Beam.
That's a lot, man.
I think
That
there's
is a
all of them.
lot.
So
And it's interesting that it sounds like a few of them are aging some of their oldest stocks. So they've been holding back on some of their good stuff, right? Or maybe if they were just waiting for the right time for it to be ready. That happens
Yeah.
too,
Well,
right?
it's supposed to be something special, and like they all actually wind up selling for the exact same price, and then the proceeds go to support like Bardstown itself, so it'll do things for the city. And they had recently given some scholarships to students to learn more about bourbon education and things. I think that was at Midway University and
Sure.
things like that. So it's all to support Bardstown. Yeah, so everybody does whatever they want to put as their best foot forward. Now, some of the distilleries haven't been distilling all that long, obviously, so
Right.
they can either wind up sourcing and blending some of their own in, or just be younger. But that's just how it is. But it's still it's exciting, and it's a really nice collection of things. And it's gonna. This is the first time it's actually been a full week of the events. Initially, they were sort of the releases were sort of just within a 2-day period,
Sure.
and you sort of
Sure.
had to run from one to another. Now it spans like the whole week, and then there's like dinners during it, and there's brunches, and there's all sorts of other stuff. So that's the immediate future. So I'm looking forward to all of those. So
I'm,
it's hard to look
I'm gonna
past that right at the moment.
I'm gonna admit I'm a bit jealous.
But
You're gonna be in the heart of bourbon country, and a lot of good things are happening, this next week. So wow, that's crazy. I'll be here in Albuquerque, little Albuquerque, New Mexico, vicariously living through you. So it's all good though. I'll have plenty of whiskey to keep me busy.
well, you should come out. This is a good week to go, or next week's a good week to come visit Bardstown. There's going to be tons of stuff going on.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, all right, we got Pine Curtain Whiskey that joined. What's up, my man? How you doing? So quick shout out to all you guys that are joining us. Let's see who's still sticking around. We got Pine Curtain and Bourbon Girl Inc. That's stick around. Today we're talking about whiskeys that we're looking forward to this year. And you already rattled off a few that you're looking forward to, and that's awesome. It sounds like a lot of great bourbons happening. Uh, cheers to you, Pine Curtain. What's up, man? And so I'm going to start off with my first whiskey. I have 3 bottles in front of me that sort of let into like what I'm expecting to see this year. Now, I did mention that I'm drinking Lady Bird. It's from Garrison Brothers, and the reason I'm looking forward to Garrison Brothers this year is last year I was fortunate enough, and it kind of happened a little by shot, like by surprise. So I was doing a review of their Guadalupe, which is a fantastic whiskey, and I don't know if you've tried Guadalupe from Garrison Brothers or if you tried any of their stuff, but
Actually, I've had I'm a big fan of them. We actually visited them right before the pandemic, and
oh,
and,
okay,
and that's when we did
okay,
our write up about them and tried a bunch then. But I actually have a pretty good assortment of Garrison Brothers. I am a fan of them. I have a bottle of
nice.
Guadalupe actually.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And now I'm sort of like kicking myself because I don't have a backup bottle. They've all sold out now. I had a chance to buy a second bottle, and I didn't get it, but that's okay because last week I came across this one, and I thought to myself, okay, uh, do I get it or do I not? And lately, my wife and I have been talking a lot about my whiskey collection. Um, and the fact that I've run out of space and I have to be very selective on what I get this year. So although I'm not buying a ton of whiskey this year, I still am buying some. But she said that it'd be okay to get some of the more premium stuff, if you will. And so this year, what I'm looking forward to the most out of Garrison Brothers is their Cowboy Bourbon. So last year, like I said, I dropped a review of their Guadalupe, just blown away. It was fantastic. And they sent me a sample. It was a 4-ounce sample. And so I didn't know what to expect. I've tried Garrison Brothers before, the single barrel, the small batch, the honeydew, and the Balmorhea. And by far, I thought the Balmorhea was the better of the core range. And so I kind of thought, well, okay, it's probably up there with Balmorhea. But I tell you this, man, I think it blows Bomberay away. I feel like Cowboy Bourbon is on a different level altogether. So shout out to Garrison Brothers. I'm looking forward to this year's Cowboy Bourbon. If it's anything like last year's, it's going to be special. So looking forward to that.
No, well, the Cowboy Bourbon is really good, but I mean, it's a very different animal than the Balmaria because I mean, the
Yeah.
Balmaria is the double oak
Yep.
one, and that's
Yep.
also a yearly release. So when it comes out, you buy it and then it's gone. And I'm actually a big fan of those too. I have like 3 or 4 years worth of them. But the Cowboy's the one that's made up of all their short barrels. So all their barrels that have angel shared down to just small amounts and have reached high proof, high concentration, they take those and blend them together and make the Cowboy. So that's why
I
that
got
is
you.
a very special bourbon, and they're really good.
All right.
I agree. So
Yeah.
yes, I'll
No.
look forward to that
Yeah.
too.
I actually, so that's a bit of info that I had no idea on like how they made it. I just figured number one is cast strength, and last year's was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was like in the 140s or something like that. It was really high proof, and probably one of the few hazmat bottles that I've had to try last year. But like I said, it wasn't. So I've tried Coy Hill, right? Coy Hill from Jack Daniels, for some of you that may not know what I'm talking about, but Coy Hill to me just felt like an ethanol punch, just super high ABV, and didn't deliver like a lot of flavor to go with that high proof. And so I was a little disappointed in the Coy Hill. At least I think it was like a batch. I'm pretty sure it was batch one that they released, and I thought, okay, this is just a hazmat bottle that's not really fun to drink. So I was kind of worried that that's exactly what I would experience with the Cowboy Bourbon, but no, it was actually fantastic. Loads of flavor, loads of complexity, and I was just really amazed by it. Did a YouTube video on it, of course, because they sent me the sample, so I thought I better talk a little bit about like what's in store. But I didn't actually get a chance to find a bottle out here, surprisingly, because we do get Garrison Brothers. We just did not get the Cowboy Bourbon.
Yeah, I
So
don't.
maybe we did. I don't know. Maybe it just sold out that quick.
Well, I don't think there's a ton of it. I mean, Garrison is interesting too because a lot of these Texas distilleries do various things to try to combat the crazy evaporation that they get because it's like insane, like 13 to 17%. So Garrison Brothers does they do actually thicker staves. So that's what they were doing because their original barrels they did in just the short
Yeah.
ones, and the first one they ever did was supposedly empty when they went to, go and actually tap it. So they started playing around with stuff, but then they had things made for them with actually thicker staves to try to decrease the amount of evaporative loss. And I think it's
Sure.
still way greater than it is here in Kentucky, but it's lower than it was for them. So you get all these concentrated flavors, I think. So it's going to be. I mean, I've only actually had one Coy Hill, and I liked it, but they were different. I know there's different batches of it and
Gotcha.
everything. So
Well, should I jump into the second bottle that I'm looking forward to, or did you have any others that you wanted to share? Or
well,
actually, you know what? Why don't we pause real quick? Sorry. For you guys that are joining and you're watching, like drop a comment below. Please, like let me know, let us know what whiskeys you're looking forward to the most this year. Some of you just may not have anything like that as a special release. You're just looking forward to trying next year, this year's batch of whatever. But I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say because, I think year after year now, especially, we're starting to see a lot more limited releases, special releases, or releases in general that kind of are like once a year, right? They're seasonal. You know what to expect. They've been put out like year after year, and so that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Fingers crossed on the Cowboy Bourbon. I'm pretty sure they will, but you know, we'll see what happens. Yeah.
so, but for me, I rattled off 7 at once, so you, you
Yeah.
have a little catching up to
Yeah, you
do.
did, man. Okay, so then oh, look at that. There he is. So Pine Curtain Whiskey dropped in there, Balcones Froke. All right, so I think he stole my thunder I'll be honest with you. Pine Curtain Whiskey, he stole my thunder. We're good friends, and he's a Patreon of mine. So you know me, I'm a huge Balcones fan, right? So this year they're going to have like an anniversary edition Froke or French Oak barrel release. Uh, and that's okay. You can steal my thunder because I intentionally left out Balcones because people that follow the channel, they know I always talk about Balcones. So I thought I better not keep talking about them on this one, right? So Froke is actually something I'm really, really anticipating this year. I'm pretty sure it's going to be fantastic. So I'm actually a member of the Facebook group Cult of Balcones, and no, it's not a religious cult. But what's interesting is they did a barrel pick, and it just so happens that their barrel pick was first aged in a 5 gallon French oak barrel, so a real, really small barrel, not big at all. And that was aged for a little bit, but it was really aged in a secondary cask, the PX Sherry cask, so a Pedro Jimenez cask, for a long time. I want to, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like either 5 or 6 years just in that barrel. And I'm telling you, man, it is a fantastic pick. They, job well done to Balcones and a job, well done to the folks that picked it. There was a background story where I think some folks were not initially sold on that one, but eventually they did end up picking it, and I'm glad because it's a fantastic one. So anyway, yeah, I am looking forward to Balcones as well, but certainly thanks Pine Curtain for dropping that in there. So my second, bottle that I'm looking forward to is Lafroig. Now I'm a huge, Isla Scotch guy. Lafroig typically drops year after year a Cargis, which basically means friends, or what they refer to as friends of Lafroig, right? It's for those that are really into Lafroig Scotch. And last year they dropped a Madeira, and I can't remember the other one. I had the bottle tucked away. But anyway, this year they're going to have another Cargis, and I'm really looking forward to that. So, and I'm going to get us caught up on the comments here. So Devin Vasquez, DC says, new to the bourbon world and trying to learn what I can from the veterans. Just won a bottle of Weller Antique 107, so looking forward to picking up them tomorrow. Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good
107,
bourbon.
yeah, 107 is hands down my favorite of the Weller, besides Foolproof. I do not have my own bottle of Foolproof, but I like I always do. I live vicariously through my friends. So, my buddy Daniel let me try some Foolproof, and I think that one edged it out just slightly as my favorite of the Weller. And then it was 107, and then wouldn't you know, Weller Special Reserve, the green bottle, the one that's like the cheapest to find, right?
Well, you had done that. Didn't you do a show where you went through all the bows? Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember. You
yeah,
did them blind,
yep.
right? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. We
I,
tasted all of the core range Weller outside of Weller, William L. Weller, just because that would have been really unfair. The W, you know what I mean? We didn't do the WL Weller BTAC. So yeah, we tried those blind, and we were pretty consistent. Like the three of us, or I'm sorry, the two of us tried. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure it was like 5 or 6 of them, and yeah, that's what we ended up with.
yeah, but I can't remember what one.
Oh, which episode?
No, which didn't you have a favorite out of the Wellers?
Yes, yeah, no, the favorite was the foolproof.
Was the full
Yeah,
proof
blind.
okay?
Yeah, blind. It was full. It was. Yeah, I'm gonna go off of memory. So foolproof, 107, special reserve, CYPB, and then the single barrel. Those. That's right. There was only 5. There was 5, and I mean it was fun to drink all 5. And although they were all like tasty, I was really shocked that the CYPB and the single barrel ranked lower than the Special Reserve, right?
Well, I think
Um,
that happens more frequently than Buffalo Trace would like to say, or the secondary market, because
yeah,
the
yeah, right.
single barrel continually winds up, I think, towards the bottom of many people's lists. And it's ironic considering well, if you throw out Daniel Weller and Millennium, which are obviously going to be impossible to get, and
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not paying $7,500, so that's not
Yeah.
happening anytime soon. But
Yeah, same
I'll be
here.
happy to taste it if one comes my way.
Right.
Um, but yeah, but after those, that single barrel is the hardest to get or the most expensive, and it continually seems to let people down. Maybe because of the price, I don't
Yeah.
know. But honestly, I only tried it once. Because I never. I like what Buffalo Trace makes, but I do not like trying to seek these out
Yeah.
with great effort or paying above what their retail price is. So I do not have a bottle of the single barrel either, and I've only tried it once, and
Sure.
um, yeah, it was not my favorite. But they're
Yeah.
single barrels, so I'm sure there's fantastic ones out there.
Yep. And Pine Curtain Whiskey, thank you for that. He said, and then the 12 year. So the 12 year was my number four. So I'm going to revisit the rank. It was Full Proof, 107, Special Reserve, the 12-year Weller, CYPB, and then the single barrel. So there were six. There were six. That's right.
Yeah,
Thank you for reminding me.
no,
Jeez. It
that
feels
was
like it's been forever. I think, I want to say it was almost like
it was just last week, wasn't
I wish.
it?
I wish it was. I want to say it was between 1 or 2 years ago. It's been that it's been that long. And hey, real quick, shout out to Bourbon Cheaper. Thanks for giving me a follow. I appreciate you, man. So yeah, just wanted to get us caught up on that. Um, where were we? So Lefroy. I think Lefroy gets a lot of hate, especially out here in the American community. Not for nothing, but bourbon always gets its love here. But Lafroig is one of those like polarizing whiskeys. It's love it or hate it. Me personally, I love it. So
Well, I
um,
like it too. I mean, a lot of bourbon drinkers do not like peat of it,
yeah,
so that's
yeah, for
would
sure,
explain that.
man. So for those of you guys that are just now joining, I'm drinking Garrison Brothers. Some Ladybird just came out not too long ago. I want to say within the last couple of weeks. This is the 2024 edition. So if you're joining us and you're sipping on something, drop a comment below. Let us know what you're drinking, man. I'd love to hear what you're sipping on. Pine Curtain, are you sipping on anything in particular? Oh man, and this is delicious, by the way. There's a reason why I like this, and I said, look, if I get the chance to get the Ladybird, I'm gonna get it. It's fantastic. I'm gonna have to do a review on it soon.
So does the honey get mellowed by the cognac barrels?
So it's in. So I think it starts out as a straight bourbon. They infuse it with honey, and then they do the secondary aging in a cognac cask.
Right. So does it
But
cut the honey
oh yeah,
strength down?
you know what? The honey's there. It's pronounced. It's sweet, but it's sweet in a way that makes you want to like chew on the whiskey. So there's a lot of soft tannins. The cognac like influence gives it that fruitiness that helps kind of like balance out that sweet flavor. Because if you get like too much sweetness, it can be a little off-putting. But if you get a little complexity with the fruit, I feel like it kind of like helps to balance it out. And I'm feeling like that's what's happening here. Like there's a good little balance going on.
Have you had the honeydew? The one that's just
I
the
have
honey?
I have had the honeydew. I don't own a bottle, but the Albuquerque Whiskey Society had a tasting with Garrison Brothers. They had a rep that came over, and honeydew was one of those bottles. And I kept thinking, man, I'm glad I get a chance to try it before I buy. You know what I mean? Because it is a little expensive for being what is it, 80 proof? You know, flavored whiskey. I want to say. I think they still market it as an infused bourbon. But actually, now that I think about it, if you look for honeydew, it's usually in the flavored whiskey section. So,
Hmm.
for what it's worth, right?
Well, how does this compare to it?
Oh, this knocks it out the park, man. I
Yeah.
mean, this is like night and day. This definitely throws shade on honeydew for sure.
Okay.
This is a fantastic bottle. This is a um, fresh bottle. I just opened it tonight, so I could kind of sip on it while we talked. And this bottle, like I said, at 114 proof, it tastes great.
Cool. Well, Pine Curtain Whiskey said Little Book 7. I think Little Book 7 was the best of the Little Books. I think this batch was just
Mm,
fantastic. I mean, when I tasted it and then I actually immediately ran out and bought another bottle of it.
mm.
But the new one just came out or is about to or did.
You know what? That might be one that some folks are looking forward to this year.
I'm looking forward to it. I've been that one's the one that's very now I have to go into my memory here, but it's very rye heavy. I think it's got like a number of actual ryes in it. Then it has like a high rye
Let
bourbon.
me let
Um,
me look at. Give me a sec. I'll look it up. Hold on. I actually have it. Yep, I have it right here. Give me a sec here.
you
This
have the Little Book 8?
No, not eight. Eight. I don't think eight has come
No,
out.
no, that's the one I'm talking about. I think it's about it is coming out.
Okay.
So
So
and the eight's the no this no, I was talking about the 8 being the one that's all the rye heavy thing. I can't remember what the 7 is,
okay.
but I love the 7. I thought it was great. I think it was older and it was all bourbon or I don't remember.
Well, I can read the tag to you if you
Yeah,
want me to read to you. Oh my God, this is really small print. So bear with me. 18-year Kentucky straight bourbon, 17-year straight bourbon, 10-year straight rye, 9 year straight bourbon, 15 years straight malt whiskey finished in Maplewood smoked barrels, 4 years straight bourbon, and 4 years straight rye. That's a lot of, that's a big blend.
that is a big one. I didn't remember the malt whiskey. Whatever he did with that, that really worked. I thought that one was fantastic, though.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what, Pine Curtain Whiskey, this is book number 7, so I may join you. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not tonight, but I need to do a review of it. My plan, interesting. My plan was to do all the different little books, not in one video because I think that'd just be a really long one. But yeah,
Well, well, you should do it before the 8 comes out because it won't be quite as long if you do it right now.
I know, I know. I mean, my wife will hate me afterwards, right? Because she's the one that films. Excuse me, but God, could you imagine how much fun that would be, though?
No, well, it's only one more bottle than your Weller one.
That
If you come out to
is true.
Kentucky, we'll do them. I have them all.
Oh my God, that would be awesome. And you know what? When I do go to Kentucky, we're definitely hanging out. I'm definitely coming over and we're hanging out because I know you
Yeah.
know all the spots for sure.
I spend a little time going to bourbon places.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you're always posting about visits to distilleries, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so my last bottle that I'm really looking forward to this year. Now, I don't know if they've been doing it year after year after year, but my buddy Nick Rivera, aka Nick the Fish, shout out to Nick. He's the one that wanted to do trivia instead of hang out with me tonight. Uh, Introduced me to Starlight Distillery. Now I've heard of them, and the reason I'm looking forward to this year's edition of finished in VDN barrels is he had me try the bourbon and the rye. They're two different bottles that were finished in VDN barrels. Now VDN is Vino de Naranja, which is orange wine, and I will just tell you the rye finished in the VDN barrels is fantastic. Um, you're not living until you try that stuff. And I have a bottle of the bourbon. I just did not. I was not able to get my hands on the rye. But he let me try both of them, and hands down, the rye was the superior bottle. But like I said, I was able to luckily get the bourbon, finished in the VDM barrels, but this year I am looking forward to getting my hands on the rye, finished in VDM barrels, just because of how good it is, man. And the bourbon and rye, I believe they were bottled at pretty close to strength, like similar strength. And this is a 107.7 proof. I forgot, don't quote me on it. I don't remember specifically what the proof was, but they were like really close in proof. So they're not, they're not 80 proof for sure, but they're not cast strength either. And I think they were right around that sweet spot of like around 55 or so percent ABV. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, those are so. I mean, my personal bias is I think rye's finished better than bourbons, especially in things that are a little sweeter. They're much
Hmm.
more complimentary. And I don't know if Bourbon Jeeper's still on here, but Penelope, I thought had it's an 8-year rye that's finished in those. They have a bourbon as well. I think
Hmm.
it was really good. I don't know if he's still there, but he can chime in. But but yeah, it's a great combination. I like Starlight's things as well.
Yeah.
It's
They make some
surprisingly not that.
interesting. They make interesting stuff, right? Like I feel like they kind of push the envelope a little bit.
Yeah, they. I need to get up there again. I mean, it's not super far, but it's sort of over the. Well, it's in Indiana, but it's not that far from Louisville. But I
Yeah.
don't actually get to Louisville very often,
Which is
surprisingly.
so? Do you live close to Louisville, or do you just live far away from Louisville? Like where are you at in
Well,
Kentucky? Because I think you are in Kentucky, right?
not yeah, well, not as far away as you are, but
Definitely
no.
not.
Well, I'm in both Lexington and Bardstown, so.
Okay.
Lexington's like an hour and a half from Louisville or so. Bardstown's like 45 minutes. So, I mean, it's not like
Okay.
as far, but I do need to get up there more. I mean, there's lots of great things up there, and I've got friends there. I just don't make it there very often. There's just so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
Make it
Yeah.
work.
Remind me, are you retired yet or not? Not yet.
I'm supposed to be retired, but I still wind up working at my old job a few days a
Okay.
month. So,
Okay.
um,
I don't know why I keep thinking that you are retired and you live this life where you get to like go to all these fancy places and drink whiskey. So at least you
well,
certainly post about it quite a bit. So
Well, that's my
I'm a
goal.
little
I
jealous.
mean, the other 5 to 6 days a week that I'm not working
Yeah.
at my old job is all bourbon related things and working
For
on the
sure.
website and working on everything else.
For
Um,
sure. For sure. A couple of people joined us to on live. So if you guys are just now joining, I'd love to hear what you guys are sipping on. Number one, and two, what whiskeys are you looking forward to the most this year? Um, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So far, it looks like Pine Curtain Whiskey dropped Little Book 7. Well, technically, it's Little Book 8, right? And I haven't even heard that Little Book 8 came out. So now that you guys are mentioning it, I will definitely get my hands on
well,
it for sure.
I think they actually had the Little Book dinner at Beam just like a couple weeks ago, and the press
Okay,
release came out a few weeks ago. And it's supposed to be. I'm part of Beam has this thing barreled and boxed where they send out quarterly boxes of things, and you get their.
sure,
I mean, you pay for it. You don't just get it, but you get the usually some limited release, and then the distillery series little small bottles that they have. So the next one that's coming is supposed to be the Little Book 8. So it should come soon
very
now.
cool, very cool. Well, hey, real quick, Devin Vasquez, DC, thank you for following me. I appreciate that. It looks like a couple of people have come in and come out, and that's okay because it is, what is it, Wednesday? I haven't done this in a couple of, like, I want to say a couple of months now. Dang, I can't believe how fast time is flying. I don't know about you, but 2024 is like a blur. It's hard to believe we're already in June. But there's a lot of things happening this year. I don't know what you have on the horizon, what you got planned for this year, but we're going to be doing a barrel pick in Colorado Springs at Distillery 291. I'm really looking forward to that just because we're going to have like a caravan traveling from Albuquerque to Colorado Springs, which is about like 5 hours away. And we're going to do a barrel pick, and there's supposed to be a SoCo or Southern Colorado Stillfest. So there'll be distilleries there. I went to the first annual one. I missed the second, and now this is the third year. A different person is going to be hosting it, but I'm excited just because we're going to be traveling up to Colorado Springs and doing that. And then outside of that, I think there's going to be a number of different new whiskey releases. Stranahan's does a snowflake every year, or at least they have been. I'm going to do a shout out to Laws because I do that. They're going to be coming out with a gargoyle barrel. It's going to be a limited release rye, bottled at cask strength. I wasn't able to try it personally yet, but a good friend of mine went up there to Denver. He actually lives in the Denver suburbs, and he told me just how good it was. So I'll probably be getting a bottle of that for sure, just because their ryes tend to be my favorite out of all the whiskeys that they make. So, but outside of that, man, I'm trying to think of what else is coming out. Speaking of 291, they just released a new bottle of what's called Good Guy. It's supposed to be a four grain whiskey, a wheater, and that's all the details I know about that. But I'm sorry, that's going to get released on the 15th of June. So, but that's really all I know about, right? And besides the three bottles or the three brands that we were talking about here on my side, and then you dropped a bunch of knowledge on the bourbons that are coming out, on your end, which is crazy.
Well,
That's a lot.
there's a bunch more. I'm sure you've seen some of the barrel picks that I've done
Yeah.
lately. I'll make Stacy Pritchard happy and plug the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. But so there's going to be 40 different single barrels there that are all the barrel picks that are being done now. And I mean, I haven't done anywhere near that many of them. I've done like 6 or something like that, or 7. But I mean, some of all the ones we picked have actually been phenomenal. And I assume all the ones that everybody else is picking are going to be really good too. So I mean, that's going to be
Right.
really exciting at the Bourbon Festival that you can, well, I mean, if you buy all 40 of them, your wife would probably kill you, but
Yeah,
and
for
mine
sure.
too.
Yeah.
but but there's going to be just a phenomenal amount of things to choose from there, and you'll get to taste them all. So you really should come out to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. That's actually another good time when you should come to Kentucky. But this year is going to be amazing with all of those barrel picks that we're going to have. So I'm looking forward to all of those. I mean, just
Sure.
tasting all of those over the course of the festival is going to be a job in itself, honestly.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. Dear God, man. So I will tell you this, full disclosure, I won't be able to probably make it this year, but going to Kentucky is something that I've seriously been wanting to do, with a lot of the different things that are
Um,
going on in my personal
my
life.
wife just joined, so what I was telling
Oh,
you was I'm done
okay.
buying bourbon. No more.
Oh, that's right. You said that you were done
Yeah,
buying new
no, I've
bottles
got
of
enough.
whiskey. That's right. I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. So sorry, real quick. I won't be able to travel to Kentucky this year, doesn't look like, but next year I seriously will be making an effort to go to Kentucky. It's been long overdue, but there's a couple of places I absolutely have to go this year for family reasons. So I probably won't make it to Kentucky, but next year let's plan on it for real. I might even be able to get a caravan of folks to go to Kentucky and join me. Uh, yeah, I'm sure you really believe Ed, right? That he's not going to be buying any more whiskey, right? Yeah. Hey, man, what's going on? We got Whiskey Pete one in the house, my man. Good to see you joining, man. So yeah, I don't know, man. This year, I think a lot of us, I mean, I'm not new to whiskey. I've been drinking whiskey for quite a bit. This is one of those years where I feel like I really need to spend more time drinking the stuff that I have and sharing the stuff that I have with my friends, just to bring down the quote unquote collection of what I have. I certainly never intended to have a collection. That was never my goal. I think I suffered through the same thing that a lot of us suffer through, which is FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And so, you know how it goes, man. Every year there's a ton of new releases, limited releases that come out. And I just had to get my hands on certain bottles. And now that I have them, I really just need to get through them, right? I'm sure I'm not alone in that.
No, I think it's a very weird thing because I mean, the pandemic did a lot of it because
Sure.
during the pandemic, the only way you could really try things was to buy stuff. And I mean, I think,
Yep.
and the whole world sort of went into a buying frenzy anyway, just because, people weren't going out, they were doing stuff at home. But I mean, for those of us that wanted to try a bunch of different whiskeys, the only way to
Yeah.
do it was to buy them. So, I mean, that's, I think, when things really took off. I'm sort of in the same boat. I mean, I still want to. Although now you can actually try things without buying every bottle. I mean, because we can go to bars again, we can get together with
Yeah.
friends, we can do bottle shares and things like that. But I mean, honestly, the prices of some of them are make me sort of lose
Yeah.
interest.
I
Because
think that's where it comes. I think that's where it comes. I think that's where my like limits in buying this year is coming down to that, right? Like you can only buy so many limited release bottles, special release stuff before you're like, man, yeah, not only do I not have those space, but man, I can't like keep affording I can't afford to just keep doing it, right? Like it's not I'm not rich. Let's be real. I'm a blue collar worker like most of us. I wish I was loaded, but I'm just not.
well,
Um,
and I'm supposed to be retired, so
yeah,
I'm on a
right. So there you go. When you're
income.
retired, yeah, retirement means fixed income, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm still working though,
Right.
a few days a month.
Sure.
But yeah, but I mean, but some things are, I mean, honestly, just priced out of what I think things are worth. I mean, without naming any names. I mean,
Yeah.
so we got two things going on. This is a whole other discussion. But I mean, you have distilleries that are producing really good things and they're releasing them at very reasonable prices.
Mhm.
Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have distilleries which are releasing things at just sort of crazy prices at the same age. Sometimes, they didn't make it, which is fine. I mean, there's great, bottlings of other things, but I mean, it should play into the prices. And when
Yeah.
there's just, I don't know. I mean, not to name numbers, but I mean, there's just a certain level where I don't want to, honestly, I can't consider buying things, and
Yeah. Or at
it's
least you're
like
gonna second
what
guess it.
justifies it?
Yeah, you're certainly going to second guess it. And believe me, I'm sipping on something that's pretty expensive. I didn't buy it because it was expensive. I bought it because I had a chance to try it through a friend. It tasted really good, so I knew what I was in for before I got it, right? But it's rare. Um, and it's interesting that this conversation segued into like prices because that was one of my topics a couple of lives ago. But you know what? I think at the end of the day, man, I certainly hope that a lot of things sort of balance itself out, right? You have inflation, but you can only blame inflation for so long, right? Like I think at the end of the day, people are just probably a little fed up of spending like at least $100 or more on what's supposed to be a good bottle, not like amazing bottle, right? So, but that's okay. I think things like I said will start to sort of level out once brands start to figure out like, hey, it's nice to do limited releases, but we need to start coming down on from the stratosphere with these prices. So, well, we'll see what happens, man. I'm kind of interested to see, you know, what happens just because I'm not one of those that started drinking whiskey because of the pandemic. I was already drinking whiskey well before then. Um, I think the timing was just a little interesting that it all kind of happened or coincided with the launch of the YouTube channel. But certainly, like, I would like to start seeing the prices come down. So even though this wasn't a live to talk about prices, um, I feel like you can't talk about whiskey these days without like at least mentioning it.
No.
So
Well, and they are coming down. I mean, because now you've got a lot of distilleries. I mean, 6-year bourbon, 8-year bourbon is no longer that big rarity. Some people are selling it for, well, what would have been expensive 5 years. I mean, I didn't start drinking whiskey during the pandemic either. That's just when my shopping went out of hand. But I mean, 6 years for under $50 nowadays is a good price. You've got, just to name some of my favorites from around here. I mean, Bardstown Bourbon Company releases, really good things. The whole Origin series for, under 50. Green River just, is releasing all of these things at very reasonable prices.
Sure.
And the irony is, other people buy those same things and repackage them and sell them
Right.
for higher prices. Same thing happens with MGP. I mean, you buy their own brands. No one Remus gets overlooked, and
Yeah,
the Rye
right.
brand,
That's a good point.
but somebody else gets the same thing, packages it, and people are willing to pay 2 to 3 or more times as much. It's a little bit of a mystery to me. I think people don't necessarily realize where these things all come from. But there's a lot of good whiskey and more every day as it's all aging coming out that people are releasing for very reasonable prices. So I don't think the time where you can release things for nutso prices, I think it's very short lived. I
Yeah.
mean, we know the prices are coming down. We know
Yeah.
what people's buying things is. I mean, 100 sort of that cutoff. Like every below that in the 50 to 80 things sell pretty well. Under that they certainly sell well if they're good from but when that 100 to 300 price range is sort of the no man's land right now. I mean, a lot of those are the ones that are building up in the glass cases and Total Wine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yet other there's plenty of new releases coming out that are clearly just going to add to those glass cases, which I just don't understand. I mean, it's like there's a
Right.
disconnect between what people are releasing and not paying attention to what people are actually, um, you know, buying, like the
Right.
public, us. So it's gonna, I think it's got to level out and it's got to correct itself because there's just so much good stuff coming out for a reasonable price that it's crazy
For
to
sure.
pay crazy amounts of money. Now, I mean, some things are worth it. I mean, what I'm drinking is expensive too,
Yeah.
the old Carter, and I'm a big fan and I pay for it and I like it, but they do special things to it. I thought that it was worth the price or I wouldn't have bought it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think overall prices are just going to wind up coming down. They have to. I mean, the
They
supply is
do.
going up. It's what happens.
Y- Yeah, and I always look at it this way, right? If they if people keep paying the price, they'll just keep charging the price. Matter of fact, they'll just keep trying to push the envelope a little bit just to see, how far are people willing to go to pay for your product. And I think that's kind of where we're at the moment is it used to be that spending $100 a bottle was a very special thing.
Yes, not
It
long
was
ago.
something, yeah, you used to tell your friends, all your friends, about that bottle that you spent $100 on, and you would show up to that special occasion with your $100 bottle. And now I feel like, I think if you drink enough, or if you've drank whiskey long enough, you're inevitably going to get a few $100 bottles, whether you want to or not. It's just going to happen, right? It just, there's going to be a lot of those special releases that fall in your lap, to where, like, all right, you have a few on your shelf, and now it's time to open them, right? It's time to pop them, and it's trying to see whether they're really worth it or not. And I think that's one thing that I've seen personally is that a lot of these bottles aren't really worth what you're paying, and it's sad because it's a lot of money, right? It's a lot. Um, but this year, like I said, I'm really looking forward to the releases that we talked about. I'm looking forward to the Lefroy Cargis, the Garrison Brothers Cowboy Bourbon, and of course the Starlight Distillery, the rye finished in VDN barrels. So hopefully they come out with some hitters, and hopefully they're reasonably priced too. There's that, right? We got to think about that.
No, yeah. I mean, I think it's worth spending. I mean, there's $100 or $200, then there's 7,500 or
Yeah,
5,000. I mean,
yeah,
that's like a world of. I'm sure they're great, but I don't know. I mean, that's why to me doing blinds is just so enlightening. It's just always amazing what wins in a blind. And if these super expensive whiskeys won a blind, I mean, we'll see. I don't have any of those.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean that's the astronomical difference. But I think the people that buy those $5,000 doesn't mean anything to them, so they can continue buying them. They're not meant
yeah,
for the average bourbon drinker.
right,
So
right.
I guess they'll just keep coming. I mean, we know what happens in Scotch, and we know that the bourbon world is trying to follow the Scotch world. And if people are going to pay 70,000 or 1.5 million for a bottle of Scotch, people are thinking, why won't they do it for bourbon too? I mean,
Right.
the reason would be that we don't usually do that in bourbon, but I can see obviously why if you're on the business side of it, you might want to cultivate that market. But it's a completely different drinker. It's not.
Yeah,
It's not the any. It's not. I wouldn't even say everyday drinker. I mean, it's not even somebody who's willing to spend a few $100s on a bottle because there's a huge reach between that and thousands.
for sure. Yeah, man, for sure. Um,
But,
well, hey, man, I think we're at time. I wanted to make this an hour long live session. I didn't, certainly we could keep talking, but I think I'm going to save it for hopefully next Wednesday. So if you want to join next Wednesday, guys, for those of you that are watching, if you just now joined, I'm sorry, we're kind of wrapping things up. You came in a little late, but I would love to have you join next week. I will likely do it at the same bat channel, and hopefully get to hear your guys' thoughts on the next whiskey topic here on the Whiskey One channel. Ed, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it, man.
no, thank you. Unfortunately, next week I'll be in the middle of the National Bourbon Week. I
Oh,
think
that's
I'll be
right.
at
Yeah,
a dinner at Lux Row during this time slot,
that's
so
right.
I won't
Well,
be
that's
joining.
okay.
But
That's okay. You can watch. You can always watch the video when I publish it. So,
yeah,
all right. Well, again, thank you for
yeah.
joining. And this was a
Thanks
great
for having me.
conversation. This was a great discussion. And I'm really eager to hear what happens next week when you're knee deep in some bourbon releases.
Oh yeah, but there may be a few videos that come out.
For sure, for sure. All right, guys. Here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.